Chapter filed. I was a bit of a menace growing up in Luton, but somehow I still managed to bag some decent GCSEs. My biggest flex? Locking down an apprenticeship in aeronautical engineering at Britannia. Before that, I was stacking bread at Asda's Bakery. Solid 6-month grind before I dipped for the apprenticeship. I started working near home at Luton Airport and hit up Bedford College full-time for the first year. Britannia would bus us over, but honestly, I felt like a total outsider there. One of the guys on the course, Sultan, turns out he was literally a prince. His fam sent him over from the UAE to study. The whole class was full of people who weren't from Luton and deaf weren't working class. I'd go home and tell my mom, I got nothing in common with these guys. I thought I was just a normal lad, but looking back, it's all about perspective. Growing up in Luton, getting into scraps wasn't that deep. It just kind of happened. It's a rough place, and everyone's taken a few hits at some point. Then suddenly, I was surrounded by people who had totally different vibes. First thing I'd ask them, where you from? What's your story? And the answers were wild. They came from small villages or posh areas, and their whole mindset was different. Not saying they were trying to make me feel like a nobody, but man, I was out of my comfort zone. Had a few rough moments at college, too. One time, a group of Muslim lads jumped me and jacked my phone. An absolute banger of a Nokia 8210, mind you. Another time, some big dude tried it with me. But I kept my cool. Didn't want to lose my job over some dumb drama. That took mad self-control. That job was huge for me, though. I was still crashing at home with my parents in Stopsley, but after 2 years, I was like, nah, this ain't it. The apprenticeship was 4 years long, and all my boys were out on building sites making way more money. Meanwhile, I was feeling out of my depth. Still, I stuck with it. To make extra cash, I started side hustling for this Irish developer, Dave. Top guy, always had my back. Every Friday night, I'd head down to London to do laboring gigs. We did a huge job at Merrill Lynch, working overnight, and I was pulling in 160 pounds per shift, same as what I made in a whole week at Britannia. Now, about my girl Charlotte McCormack, high school sweetheart, lived near Putteridge High. Her fam was mad nice, even took me on a family trip to Portugal. But before her, when I was like 15 or 16, I spotted this stunning girl walking past my house. Just for the LOLs. I scribbled a note on the back of a photo of me and my mates, then slipped it through the letterbox of the house she went into. Didn't see her again for years. Turns out she was from Bushmead, a whole different area of Luton. Then one night, I ran into her in town. And yeah, that girl? She's my wife now. The absolute trooper who's put up with all my madness over the years. First time I tried chatting her up, she shut me down so fast. Only W I took that night was swapping numbers with her. And man, thinking back, I had zero game. I was obsessed with my cars, and I just know she must have cringed hard the next time she saw me in my little Vauxhall Corsa. But hear me out, it wasn't just any Corsa. This thing was the business. TVs in the headrests, one in the front, two-tone paint that literally changed color in the sun. The number plate? C13 RSA. I thought I was that guy. One day, I'm out cruising with my boys, and for some insane reason, we had porn playing on the car's screens. Yeah, I know, random as hell. Next thing I know, I get a text. You dirty so-and-sos. It was her. She was behind us and could see everything. Somehow, despite that total L of a situation, she agreed to go out with me. And well, you know how the story goes. I've put that poor girl through enough to last a lifetime. At the time, I was staying away from all the football drama, but trust me, in Luton, trouble finds you. You don't have to go looking for it, it's just there. Even that car got me into trouble. Since I wasn't much of a drinker, I'd just go out in my car. One night, I was at Space Nightclub in town. When I stepped outside, this big group of Pakistani lads started shouting at me, Corsa boy, Corsa boy. Their leader? Some well-known guy called Chopper. That night, I was with my boys, Brucey, Nelson, and Scott, aka Shit Hair. Don't ask. We were just chilling, minding our business, but the Pakistani lads weren't having it. They started shouting, Corsa boy, white and black don't mix, so off. I was like, you what? And they doubled down, go on, off, white boy. Next thing you know, it all kicked off. Me and Scott ended up legging it down the road with the whole gang chasing us. We barely made it into Scott's car before they smashed all the windows. But the worst part, these guys weren't letting it go. They were out for blood. At first, I tried to squash the beef. I called them up like, look, I don't want any trouble. But that went nowhere. For months, they were after me. It was my cousin who finally set me straight. You can't be weak around here, not in this town. So I flipped the script. I rang up Chopper and told him straight, I don't care how many of you come for me. I know where you live. If this carries on, I'll come for you. Even if your mates get me first, just know it's on your head. After that, they started jumping out of cars, swinging baseball bats, stopping my mates like, where's Yaxley? Where's Yaxley? I had to make a choice, one I've pretty much stuck to ever since. It's cost me hospital beds, prison cells, stitches, broken bones, broken teeth, but never my pride, never my spirit. And guess what? A day later, Chopper called me up. Oh, Bruv, let's leave it. And just like that, it was over. 6 months of hell, done. That's the thing with bullies. You let them walk over you once, and it never stops. But if they know you won't back down, different story. It was the same when the EDL started. I knew if I ran once, I'd be running every week. People will test you, but once they know you're not scared, their whole vibe changes. Tabai, I think the whole country could learn from that. Yeah, I've taken some nasty beatings, but I never broke. Life switch up. By the end of my apprenticeship, I got a 6-month contract at Manchester Airport, working night and day shifts, 4 on, 4 off. I stayed in a guest house in Wilmslow, Cheshire. It was a whole different world from what I knew. Some weekends, the lads would come up and we'd hit Manchester hard. First time I'd properly been away from home. Other times, I'd leave work early, shoot back to Luton, then head to London to work for Dave and stack some extra cash. Then, work dried up. 9/11 had just happened, and the aerospace industry was on its knees. Of the 6 of us in that apprenticeship, not one got a full-time job. It probably mattered more to them than me, though, because my life was about to take a massive left turn. I'd never been in trouble before, but I was about to get sent to jail. My first offense changed everything. At the time, my girlfriend and I were solid. We'd been together 3 years. She worked at a bank in St. Albans. Things were going great. One night for her birthday, about 12 of us rented a limo and drove to Milton Keynes. We had a blast. When I ended up in jail, I had a photo from that night on my cell wall. That picture probably saved me a lot of trouble. That night, we got back to Luton around 2 or 3 a.m., walking home. We were arguing, nothing serious, just a bit of a domestic. I was drunk, raising my voice. Then out of nowhere, this random guy appears. Shorts, t-shirt, jumps right in. Look, I've never hit my wife. Never would. But yeah, I was pissed, loud, and probably looking aggressive. So this random geezer rolls up telling me to take a different way home, saying he'd walk her back to her mom's. I was like, bruh, stay out of it. I go to follow her, and next thing I know, dude full-on tackles me. Like, completely unprovoked. He even admitted it in court. He came at me first. Now I've got a busted head, ripped jeans, and 0 patience. So I get up, fight back, and win. But then, when he hits the ground, I kick him. I was drunk, wasn't thinking, but it didn't even do real damage. He gets up, not even hurt, and suddenly goes, "You're done, mate." I'm a cop. An hour later, police storm my place like it's an episode of SWAT, dragging me out of bed. Apparently, I just scrapped with an armed response officer, and instead of handling it normally, he just called up his boys. Love that for me. But none of that mattered in court because of that one kick. So now I'm waiting 9 months for trial, working some random job selling car trackers, and taking a trip to Jamaica, as you do. Then boom, court day. Charges? Resisting arrest and assaulting a cop. I pled not guilty because, let's be real, he never told me he was a cop until after I fought back. Also, their so-called independent witness, literally his neighbor. Bro, it was my first offense ever. I thought I'd get community service, maybe a fine at worst. But nah, judge hits me with 12 months in prison. I was stunned. My mom was there, my mate Sappy was there, and just like that, I was getting dragged downstairs. Prison? Absolute chaos. First day in, some dude walks up like, "You Yaxley?" "8, bet." And I just know I'm done for. Later, a group of Lucy Farm guys try to drag me into a cell. One of them even had sharpened hair clippers. Sir, what? Luckily, I got saved by a guy from Hitchin. He saw a picture in my cell with my mate Les, who runs doors at clubs, and was like, "Wait, you know Les?" Next thing I know, he tells the others to back off. Literal plot armor. I won't lie, once things settled down, I handled prison fine. I mean, it was rough, but I adapted. If anything, it just made me stop being scared of jail. And that was the real problem. Coming out, I was pissed. Tried to appeal because my address got randomly tied to a drug raid, which had nothing to do with me. But nope, I lost. Felt like the system threw me in the bin. The hatred? It was real. A couple years later, I'm running a tanning shop, cop car drives past, and I just shout wankers. Officer pulls up like, "What did you say?" So I tell him. Straight up. But to be fair, he was actually cool and said, "Not all cops are like that." Respect. Back in '05, though, I was done with authority. Came out of jail with no job, no career, and fully embedded in Luton